I can't take it all with me, so I figured it ought to go somewhere it's still needed." He said it quietly to the young woman at the Milford Community Food Bank receiving dock, both hands resting on the tailgate of his truck as though the standing required some support. He was 71, white-haired, wearing overalls that had been washed so many times they had achieved a kind of dignity. Behind him, the truck bed held 32 crates of produce, sweet corn, butternut squash, late tomatoes, dried beans, more than she had seen arrive in a single donation all season. Her name was Opal Marin, 25 years old. She had been volunteering at Milford Food Bank every Saturday for 8 months, sorting, stacking, logging donations in the intake ledger with the careful handwriting of someone who understood that behind every entry was a family's week. She reached for the intake clipboard. "Can I get your name for the record?" "Harlan Voss," he said. She wrote it. Then she stopped writing. She looked at the name on the page, then at the man by the tailgate. Something moved through her that was trying to be professional and was losing. "Harlan Voss," she said slowly. "From Voss Farm on Route 14? He looked at her with the careful attention of someone recognizing that a simple question has become something else. 43 years on that land," he said. "You know it?" She set the clipboard down. She pressed her hand flat against it for a moment, as though steadying herself. When she looked up, her eyes were bright in a way that had nothing to do with the November cold. "When I was 9 years old," she said, "my mother and I went through a very hard winter. We had almost nothing, and every week for 4 months, boxes of vegetables appeared on our porch. No note, no name." She paused. "We never found out who left them." Harlan was very still. "We lived on Granger Street," she said, "the yellow house, the one with the broken mailbox post." He looked at the truck bed for a moment, then back at her. He didn't say anything for a long time. "I remember the mailbox," he said finally, very quietly. Opal pressed her lips together, looked at the 32 crates, looked at this old man who had driven his truck to the food bank on a November morning to give away everything he had left, and who had done the same thing, apparently, for a child he had never met 16 years ago without leaving his name. She was not entirely successful at keeping her composure. She didn't try very hard. His son arrived an hour later, Callan Voss, 33 years old, who had spent the morning finalizing paperwork on the farm's sale and then driven to Milford to help his father unload, not knowing the unloading was already done, not knowing about the intake ledger, not knowing about the yellow house on Granger Street. He found his father sitting in the food bank's small volunteer kitchen with a cup of coffee and a young woman across from him who had clearly been crying and was currently smiling in the complicated way of someone doing both at once. Callan looked at his father. His father looked at him with the expression of a man who has just been found out in the best possible way. "She was one of the Granger Street families," Harlan said simply.
Callan sat down. He knew about the Granger Street deliveries, had helped load the truck as a 17-year-old, had never asked questions because his father had simply said, "There are people who need it more this winter," and that had been enough. He looked at Opal, at the clipboard on the table between them with his father's name written in her careful hand. "He never told anyone," Callan said. "That was the point," Harlan said. Opal looked at the old man across the table, this quiet, unhurried person who had fed her family through a winter she still thought about, and who had fed strangers every year since, and who had driven his last harvest to a food bank on a Saturday morning because he could not take it with him and could not bear to let it go to waste. "Why didn't you ever leave a note?" she asked softly. Harlan wrapped both hands around his coffee cup. "Because then it would have been about me," he said. "And it wasn't about me. It was about the winter." The food bank hummed quietly around them, the sound of boxes being moved, of a refrigerator cycling, of Saturday volunteers doing their patient work. Outside, Callan's truck sat beside his father's in the parking lot, and the November light came through the kitchen window at a low, honest angle. Opal reached across the table and placed her hand over the old man's. She didn't say anything, neither did he. Some moments have already said everything. She framed the intake form, not the original. She made a careful copy with permission and framed it on the wall of her apartment above a small photograph she had found in a box of her mother's things. Their front porch, winter, a wooden crate of vegetables sitting on the step, left by someone who did not need to be thanked. Harlan Voss moved to a smaller place in the spring. Callan kept farming on rented land across the county, smaller scale, enough to give away what he grew. The food bank received his first donation in June, 20 crates, no fanfare, logged in the intake ledger by a volunteer who wrote the name carefully and did not need to be told what it meant. Some people feed the world quietly and never once count what it cost them. They are the reason certain winters are survivable. They are the reason some children grow up remembering that the world was kind, even when they couldn't see the hands that were kind to them. Give without the note. Give without the name. The harvest that is truly yours is the one you gave away. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, subscribe, and comment. Let's spread more stories of kindness and hope together.